Always good to chat. So I think obviously long before my time. I think we're like 12, 13 years on in the
13 years into the journey.
The Moore Johannesburg journey. You and I both enjoy books, and I think one of them by Morgan Housel talks about the things that don't change. People are often obsessed about the things that do change. In your mind, what are the things that have stayed the same? Talk me through things you're proud of that haven't changed and kind of where we are on that.
Yeah, that's such an important question. Guys get obsessed about what is the new trend, what's happening, what's vogue at the moment in business. But fundamentally, our business model is quite simple. It hasn't changed in centuries.
Mm-hmm.
It's about providing curated, expert, personalized assistance to clients. The way you deliver that might change over time,
mm-hmm.
but that hasn't fundamentally changed. And there's expression in French, which I use from time to time, is the loose translation is the more things change, the more they stay exactly the same, which I guess what I enjoyed about that book. It was a few that we read
mm-hmm.
together last year that really resonated.
Yeah, and internally, that's obviously on the client side. Obviously, we're quite big on culture. Yourself, Candice, it's the word we use probably the most. What are the things you're most proud of our culture, and what are the things you know when we look out into the future and our aspirations of where we want to go? Talk a little bit about our culture and how you see that playing out.
I think at the heart of what we are as a business is an entrepreneurial mindset,
mm-hmm.
a kind of can-do attitude. That's what clients come to us for. It's what they need us for. They're in need of a service, an assistance around a problem that they've got. And we've been quite deliberate and intentional about embedding that as a cornerstone of our culture. It's something that you can feel. You know, culture is not just this airy-fairy thing. It can be a tangible thing. When you walk into these offices, it has a certain energy to it. And that energy, I guess, is the shortcut for the culture. There's this level of engagement that people feel when they walk into the business. For us, it's critically important. And it might be simple to go and say, can you keep that entrepreneurial culture when you're a small business? And I guess some people might say you can only do it as a small business. But I think you can scale that entrepreneurial culture even as we grow as a business. That hasn't, to my mind, diluted at all from the time we were one employee in this business to now 300 employees in this business across multiple service lines. That core culture is still at the heart of what we do. But you've got to work at it. You've got to live and breathe it. You can't be inauthentic about it. You can't just pretend this is going to be my culture. You either got it or you don't got it. And you've got to lean into it and make it part of everything that you do.
Yeah, and taking a slightly macro lens now, obviously for us, we're quite big on this entrepreneurial thing, as you're saying now. It's one of the biggest challenges I have in my role is trying to help scale the feeling. It's not just what we do, but it's how we do it. And we resonate really well with our clients because they tend to operate in the same way. They love to take risk, obviously calculated risk, and it makes sense. When you're looking at South Africa now, both in our context and the context of our clients, like how do you find people are looking at South Africa, the investment opportunities? How's that looking at the moment?
I was very fortunate last night to go and attend a presentation by the CEO of Capitec Bank talking about their own journey. And here we're talking about a real challenger to what was an established industry. How could anyone challenge into that marketplace? But look what they've done in a very short period of time. And that entrepreneurial spirit was there, and they're very deliberate in the way that they approach their own journey around growing their business and making sure that they stick true to that entrepreneurial spirit. And they've been able to scale it quite successfully. So kind of finding niches where you can go make a difference and be deliberate in that. They a perfect example of a South African success story in a market where everyone said that there are 4 dominant players. Sound familiar?
Yep.
4 dominant players, and you can't break into that. Well, I beg to differ. Clients deliberately opt for an option like Moore because we're walking a similar journey to them. Some might misinterpret the word entrepreneurship and think that this is a super risky environment. It's not about that. Entrepreneurship is identifying risk that you can manage, and you can put mitigation in place to extract some kind of benefit, some kind of reward. And one of the things that he said in his presentation yesterday is that you do need a little bit of a risky environment, a bit of a challenging environment to make a difference. His example that he gave is in Switzerland, everything works like clockwork. Excuse the silly example,
Yeah.
but everything works like clockwork, but you'll struggle to find an opportunity.
Yep.
Here, it feels like nothing works like clockwork, but there are opportunities everywhere to make a difference. And that's what makes this place so amazing. So are we naive to the challenges of South Africa? We're not naive to that at all. But can we recognize the opportunities that it presents? Of course we can, and we lean heavily into that. We are bullish as a practice about the South African future. We're bullish about employing young talent, and we do it unashamedly. We think South African talent on a global stage does exceptionally well, and why not capitalize on that?
Yeah, 100%. And going back on your personal journey also, again, you set up this practice 12, 13 years ago. If I remember back 2018, so before my time, I think we were only about 30 people, and it's grown almost exponentially since then.
Yeah.
Your role as founder, your role now in a slightly different space. Like, just talk us through that. You can make reference to things like the Directors Forum, Shadow Board, things that we put in place in the last few years. Talk us through that.
Yeah, like when you're growing a business, initially, you got to get into survival mode quickly. And in the early days, our attention was around that, just making sure that the basics were being done properly, business was being run properly, but daring to dream a little bit and push the boundaries out a little bit.
Yep.
And Candice was involved with me right in the beginning of creating this business, and we had a dream that we were trying to create, and we were quite deliberate about what we said that could look like. Some said we were crazy, we'd never be able to grow it to 100 people. Well, we've gone way past that a long time ago. But we haven't lost that key entrepreneurial spirit, that ability to make quick decisions in a business, make many decisions as an entrepreneur. If you need to course correct, so be it, but don't get caught in that decision paralysis mode that some people can get caught in.
Yep.
But as we've grown, naturally it's meant that we've had to put other systems in place. Something that we fundamentally believe is a cornerstone of our success is empowering young talent into doing things on their own, promoting young leaders, giving them the opportunity within the framework and the guidelines of a structured environment. And early on, we identified the next tier of leaders that would lead this practice in different fields, whether it be blockchain, whether it be in advisory, risk advisory, tax services, but give young talent the ability to shine. And we did an assessment a little while ago. We've got 20 odd people that carry a director title in this business. Average age of that group is somewhere in the region of about 35 years old. That's phenomenal.
Yep.
If you had to compare that to many of our peers, that average age would be significantly higher than I think it's our biggest strength.
Yep.
Might also be an area of concern because maybe it's not enough experience during times of crisis. They might not have seen as many crises as young bodies, but the drive is there, the energy is there, the passion, the desire to do things differently, use a bit of innovation in it. And as that group of young leaders has grown, we established something about a year ago now called the Directors Forum. And it is a grouping of all of those business leaders that comes together across the greater 50 Oxford businesses. And they use that forum as a way to improve their own decision-making processes, learn to manage their own boards a little bit better, interact with each other, and learn from each other how they could do things a little bit better. The impact of that Directors Forum has far exceeded my own expectations by a long way. The level of interaction between directors that weren't perhaps interacting before because there was no real need for them to interact has been an eye-opener for me. And it has given this business an extra injection over the last year. We've seen the benefits of it. We finished our financial year at the end of Feb this year, and we've had another, touch wood, another stellar year in terms of revenue growth, and we don't take that for granted. A lot of hard work's gone into that, a lot of trust that clients have placed in us across the different service lines to be able to deliver that growth. But I think the empowering environment of the Directors Forum was a big portion of that success.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously with the shadow board, we're taking it a little step further.
Exactly.
And that's also been really cool.
Yeah.
Bringing
that's the next level down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you always spoke about when I joined here is about making thinking short, thinking far.
Yeah.
And I think making those investments in the future, for us, we're very much trying to future-proof. I'm giving a talk next week, which is actually on the tension between executing in the short term and also innovating for the future.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things for me about getting right in a business like this, is that if we focus everything on execution now, we're not going to be competitive in the future. But at the same time, if we're always forward-looking and it's all ideation and no execution, you don't have a business now.
You might not get to that.
Yeah,
future.
exactly. And I think managing that tension is where I sit, and obviously we chat about this all the time. It's probably one of the hardest things to get right. If I look at some of the biggest challenges we're trying to deal with now, so obviously we're very focused on brand and trying to elevate our brand, both client-facing and talent-facing. And if I look at the profession, and I'm not a CA.
We won't hold it against.
Good and a bad thing, I suppose. And that's obviously by design. When I look at some of the limitations or things that can affect us in our growth journey, I think talent is one of the biggest ones, especially now. Given that the CA qualification, not just in South Africa, but globally, I think is under a little bit of pressure. What do you think are some of the biggest things driving that? If you could speak directly to the younger generation, I mean, some of your kids are now, starting out at university. Why would someone want to go into the CA qualification, and just talk us through some of the benefits there?
Yeah, I first want to just touch a little bit on the shadow board thing, and we use the expression regularly in this practice about think near and think far.
Yeah.
And effectively what that means, make decisions today for today, but also start making decisions for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And as you start coming up the leadership ranks, when you're at the lower levels, there's going to be many think close decisions, fewer think far decisions. And as you get more and more into leadership, that balance starts to switch. And certainly by the time you're at Directors Forum level, you can't go through a day without at least one think far decision, something that I'm going to decide on today that's going to change my future. And the Directors Forum was that first step. How do I increase the bench, get depth on the bench in the leadership? The natural next progression, if we're going to say that we're going to be true to creating young leaders, was the development of this shadow board, which is, we've got some first year trainees that have been elected to that shadow board. And it's open to anyone in the organization below the level of director. It's a different perspective, having interacted with that shadow board.
Yeah, completely.
Totally different perspective on the business. But very practical, very business-minded. I've got to say, I was impressed with the interaction we had with them at the last shadow board meeting.
Yep.
And so leading off the back of that, what we've been trying to do, create through these different initiatives, Directors Forum or the shadow board, is to show visibly to our own staff members and to those future staff members that there is a dynamic career available for you if you want to lean into it and become a good, strong chartered accountant in South Africa. There are young leadership opportunities there. You can go and create your own path. And there might be a temptation to think that there are more exciting degrees to go and study at university or something different.
Yep.
Fundamentally, the CA qualification in this country is still the number one financial qualification available.
Yep.
Most CEOs and CFOs of listed companies in this country are chartered accountants. And there's a reason for that. It's because you learn to become fluent in the business language of the country.
Yeah, gotcha.
And you might have a whole bunch of entrepreneurial ideas in your head, but you've got to be able to speak the language of business to make it real.
Yes.
And what better qualification is there in this country at the moment than CASA? And whilst there might be competition for the CASA globally at different levels of qualification, within our teams here, Clay, you'll know we've got teams that sit here in Joburg and do work for businesses that sit in London.
Yep.
They might sit in Ireland. They might sit in East Coast of the USA. Young CAs joining those teams. And it never fails to astound me that every time, when they first get selected to go into those international teams, they think, I'm a CA from South Africa, I'm surely not going to be good enough to provide input in London.
Yeah.
And within a week of being involved in those global teams, they realize as quickly as their counterparts on the other side that they are on top of the pile, top of the pops. So South African CAs, to my mind, not a surprise why we continue to be ranked number 1 globally.
Yeah, 100%. And also, I've got quite a few friends that I went to school with who've gone on and been CAs. And it's so great to see people branching away from that. So you start in financial services, as you said, you learn the language of business, and then that entrepreneurial mindset kicks in. And you see opportunity, and I think it gives you the opportunity to get into that as quickly as possible and to almost fast track your future in that regard. So something you spoke about, again, with some of the language we've been using. We spoke last year about growth, we spoke about stronger. One of the other things that we also quite intentional about is being quite locally dominant, but also globally relevant.
Yes.
And next week, you're heading off to the US. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that journey, what that looks like, and what you're hoping to get from the trip?
Yeah, one of the things that South African businesses tend to do poorly is they become a little bit insular. Mm-hmm. They just think about their own little environment. Here, we deliberately encourage people to think a little bit more globally, be active within the Moore Global network, make themselves available to go to conferences in all part of the world with Moore Global, or have an opportunity to go and speak at different events. In this practice, we're big proponents of attending these. Yep. Once again, I'm fortunate to be able to be attending the Moore North America conference, which will take place in Austin. First time to Texas for me, so I'm really
very cool.
Looking forward to that. Traveled extensively to the USA, but never to Texas. So looking forward for this trip. And whilst I'm there, I used the opportunity to interact with managing partners of significant practices in the US. There's some of the Moore offices there are giants.
Yeah.
And also fortunate to have been invited to speak to the conference around mining and the whole EMR sector, the influence that mining in Africa might have on North American client base. So when you think North America, not only the US, but also Canada, what's going to happen on the Toronto Stock Exchange. So it's quite an exciting time.
Yeah.
So one of the roles I do have for Moore Global is I'm a Moore Global sector leader for mining, and we'll have a dedicated opportunity to speak to that entire conference about what we could be doing for the mining sector on a global scale, and that's I think is quite exciting.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Naturally, our client base here in South Africa is dominated by a lot of mining clients, mining services. It's an area that we enjoy, not afraid to travel up and down the continent following our mining clients.
Yeah. I must say it's been really interesting for me because I didn't really know the history of Joburg that funnily enough. I mean, I've lived here my whole life, and just in recent times.
Fundamentally a mining town.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's crazy to think. I mean, it's one of the major cities of the world that never existed on a proper water source. I mean, all the trees that we see are all basically man planted. Didn't exist here before. But it's so great like delving into the history of a city. Because we are what we are because of it. I mean, one of the books there behind you, Diamond's Golden War, it's a book I absolutely loved about South African history, really going deep into that. And it's amazing to see how that translates, not just here in South Africa, but obviously you're going to Canada as well. Ol, you and I are both big on talent and mentorship and investing in the future. Yeah. I've got 2 young kids. You've obviously got a few yourself, a little bit older. 3. And I just wanted to get your view. If you could talk directly to the younger generation now, obviously with the advent of AI, many other things going in the world, political instability, what should people be leaning into, the younger generation, to better position themselves, better elevate themselves for this really uncertain future that we all face?
Yeah. And a step back a little bit. I was very fortunate to have a very strong mentor when I first became a chartered accountant on my journey, and it made a dramatic impact on me, on my career, on the things I thought about, the things that I read from a business perspective, and I think my career has benefited from having that strong mentor. As a consequence of that, I almost feel a responsibility to the young talent that comes through this practice to give them similar opportunities to what I had. Perhaps get involved in leadership at a young age, get exposed to different sectors of the economy, get exposed to the boardroom, engaging with other entrepreneurs. And we do that within the practice. We expose young talent to that. When I engage with a lot of the young talent that are either at university or thinking about going to university, we engage even at school level to encourage people to go and study. There's a lot of fear and apprehension about the future. What should they be doing? What should they be worried about? AI is going to take away all their jobs. Every generation has its challenge. This generation's challenge that it's facing is AI. Technology is neither good nor bad. It's amoral.
Yeah.
It's how you use it. And you're still going to need exceptional brains, exceptional ability to drive something forward.
Mm-hmm.
AI and other technology is just going to change the way in which you do something. It might speed it up. It might change your emphasis of what you're going to work on.
Yeah.
And this technology change happens rapidly. It feels like just yesterday when I was starting articles, not just yesterday, but it feels like just yesterday when the first laptops were being introduced into audit practices, and they go, oh, everyone's going to lose their jobs because now there's laptops. And well, guess what's happened? Employment in the sector has grown.
Yeah.
And the next technology happened, and then it was the internet, and that's going to take away. Well, it hasn't. It's increased the jobs in the sector. And the technology that we're going through now is going to do the same. It's going to increase the jobs in the sector. The jobs are just going to be different.
Yep.
So my advice to youngsters that are going into university thinking about what they want to study or what they should be doing is focus on what it is that's going to make them stand out in a pool of sameness, and lean into what it is their strengths are. Don't be afraid of some technology that you see floating. Lean into it.
Yep.
Become a master at it. You will adopt it far quicker than somebody who's much older than you.
Yep.
In the 1990s and the early 2000s, auditing was an old person's game. In 2025, auditing is not an old person's game. There's with the level of technology we use in the practice, this is a young person's profession, and it'll increasingly become so. So don't view that as an obstacle. I would view it as exactly the opposite. Yep. It's an opportunity.
And then all on less on the technological side, on the soft skill side. I mean, this is very much a ones and zeros, debits and credits world.
Yeah.
You and I both attended a public speaking workshop, I think it was last week, which was fun, and it's been great to see that initiative across the business. When you look at the younger generation now on the soft skills, things like public speaking, networking, what are the things that you would say people need to lean into, not on the technical side, but very much on the soft skill side?
From a business perspective, people fundamentally want to do business with people that they like. So that's the starting point.
Yep.
So people do business with people. And when someone approaches a technical firm like this, like Moore, technical competency is almost implied because the name is there.
Yep.
Moore, it implies quality. It's a given. So how are you going to differentiate yourself in an environment where this firm is technically competent, another firm might be technically competent? Well, it's in the soft skills. That's your differentiator. You've got to be able to relate to people. You've got to be able to engage with them. You've got to be able to share knowledge in a manner that is appropriate for the conversation that you're having.
Yep.
You've got to be able to build trust. There's no textbooks can teach you how to do that. Those are soft skills you're going to learn either because you're in an environment that understands it and you're going to see it in your peers, which I hope is what you see here, or you go to things like we've created internally, the public speaking programs that we have in place, and various other initiatives which we as leadership didn't put in place. Those were initiatives that were put in place by some of the junior staff members, recognizing for themselves that what will make the difference between a good professional and a great professional
Yeah.
is the one that has mastered the soft skills and the EQ component of it.
Yeah.
Intelligence is implied.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a weird thing to say. It's almost like intelligence is becoming commoditized.
It is.
And it's very interesting. And I was a bit naive to it before I did my MBA and then came here. I always thought the world is meritocratic, but often it's perception that drives reality.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest challenges for me in my role here has been trying to align perception with reality, because I was surprised how good the reality was here. And now it's about how we elevating that perception to match it. And it is a challenge with brand. It is a challenge with opportunities for youngsters. And when I look out now a few years into the future, particularly with our younger generation here, and when I started my career, I was the youngest by country mile. And then it was very beneficial to have a generational gap, and that's why I could accelerate faster. When you look out into the future now, like a few years, and obviously our business has grown exponentially, and particularly now talking to our younger staff and potentially people who may join us. What are you most excited about for the journey of Moore Joburg and where it can go and what lies ahead of us?
I love this business. I think the main reason I love the business is two things. I love the interaction with clients.
Yep.
The stimulation, the challenge that you get from interacting with clients and walking that journey with them and helping them. And the other bit that I love about this business is engaging with young talent, the energy and the passion that they bring to any environment. And as much as we've grown, I think this journey is only just starting in reality. We have much bigger aspirations than what we are currently. That's not trying to sound arrogant. It's just the need that I can see in front of us from client base and from a country need and all of those things. There is so much open water in front of us here as a business that why would we not go into it? And that's exciting, because as we grow into that, guess what's going to happen to the directors forum?
Yeah.
Well, those 25 odd directors that are there are going to become 35, going to become 45, and the next generation of leaders that go through
that.
Exactly. We're very fortunate that there might be some headwinds in an economy that might slow things here or there, but that's not the sense that we get within our practice. Within our practice, we get the sense that there is still a lot of open water in front of us, and that's got to be exciting. If you come to the office knowing, well, there's new ground that we can go and take soon.
Yep.
My challenge is, how do I find the next young person who's going to go into that new ground? Well, that's an exciting place to be in. We're not in an environment where we've got to watch head count and make sure we don't overcommit on staff here. We're in the opposite environment to go and say, how do we grow responsibly? How do we take that next bit, providing the correct expertise out there and opportunity?
Yeah, 100%. And I think maybe just as a closing question, when you think of your role as a leader and the direction of the firm and kind of where we want to take it, what is like the one thing you most want to get right with our next generation of leaders here? If you could leave them with one thing, what would that be?
It's going to sound a little bit trite, but the main thing is, and we say it regularly, is just be a good human being. If you can be a good human being, you will be a good leader, naturally. If you can be a good human being, you'll be a good mentor. If you can be a good human being, you'll be a good sounding board for clients. And hone your professional skills, hone your EQ and all the other soft skills that you spoke about.
Yeah.
But overall, be a good human being. That's the only takeaway.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. I think that's core to absolutely everything. It doesn't matter how good you are technically. At the end of the day, you just got to resonate with people, do the right thing by your clients, do the right thing by your employees.
Do the right thing.
100%. Love that. Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. And
Good.
Safe travels next week. And very much look forward to
Thanks,
going
Clay.
on this journey with you. Thank you.
Thank you.